Welcome back, everyone, to the Inner Light Jyotish Summit, a wonderful week of inspiring female Jyotishis sharing their knowledge and wisdom. In our next session today, we have Erin Walsh. I'm so glad that Erin is here sharing her Rahu wisdom with us. She's going to be offering some insights about Marana Rahu, when Rahu lives in the ninth house of the Jyotish chart. And I've had the pleasure of working with Erin over the last year. She calls herself the self-empowerment Dharma coach. She's a Jyotishi, a yoga therapist, and a health coach with an Ayurvedic approach. And she's been sharing the benefits of health, healing, and wellness for over 25 years. Erin is a mother and the author of a book called Grow, which is recipes for happy, healthy children seasoned with love. And it's available on Amazon. And I'll share more about Erin's offering later in the session as we close. I'm excited that Erin is here today. Erin has been a wonderful student over the last year as we've walked through our Jyotish work together. It's been a pleasure to work with you, Erin, and just hear your vast wisdom and knowledge. So I'm excited about your topic today, Rahu in the ninth house. This is something we share together as well, and we've had many conversations about it. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and take it away.
Great. Thank you, Swati. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I would like to start today with a chant in invocation to Ganesha. So you can join me if you'd like. Om Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanodanti Prachodayate. Om Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanodanti Prachodayate. Om Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanodanti Prachodayate. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Thank you. So calling in Ganesha. Okay, there we go. All right. So Marana Rahu and the wisdom of the ninth house. I'm just going to start with the origin story of Rahu and Ketu. There's many kind of iterations or different stories about it. And then we'll go into Rahu and Ketu, the ninth house, Rahu in the ninth house, Marana Rahu, and then the current Rahu and Ketu transit right now, and we'll finish up with some remedies. So this is the story of the churning of the ocean and how Rahu and Ketu came to be. The turtle at the bottom is an incarnation of Vishnu, who's holding up Mount Meru, the symbol of the earth. We have the Devas on the left and the Asuras on the right. And so the Devas and Asuras are churning the ocean to try and get the Amritam, the immortal nectar, out of the ocean. Okay. So the Devas and Asuras were sworn enemies, and they represent the opposing forces of our mind, the light and the dark. And there's an eternal battle of destruction, and everything on the earth is destroyed. And so the Devas and Asuras joined forces. They came together to do the churning of the ocean using the snake, Vasuki, as the rope to churn, to bring up the Amritam. And the immortality, the nectar of immortality was for all to enjoy. But with the Devas on one side and the Asuras on the other, the poison is what emerged first. So Shiva came down from the mountaintop and said, I'll take the poison. And so he ingested the poison, got it into his throat, and he became the blue-throated one, Nilkant, as he transforms the poison into ether. So they continue churning, and all of these deities and blessings are coming up from the ocean. And the last to come up is Devanatri, the physician of Ayurveda, and she emerges with a pot of nectar, healing the devas and asuras from their long and hard labor. So Vishnu comes in the form of the beautiful maiden Mohini, and she's enchanting the universe, and she tricks the asuras, and she um, tries to sorry. um, so she tricks them. And so she brings the Amritam only to the Devas. And so Rahu Ketu comes in a disguise, and he sneaks in with the Devas, and they're passing around the Amritam. And as he takes the Amritam, one drop comes into his mouth. And the sun and the moon see this, and they were like, wait a minute, that's an Asura. And so Mohini takes Vishnu's chakra and throws it at him, and it cuts off his head. So the head is separated from the body, and he becomes disembodied. But because he had one drop of the Amritam, the immortal nectar, he's immortal now. So Vishnu has to give him an honor. So he makes him one of the planets. So the Devas prevail, and they reclaim the earth and the heavens, and then the Asuras domain in hell. And so to this day, Rahu and Ketu chase the sun and the moon, swearing revenge and swallowing them to eclipse their light. So I wanted to bring in a little bit of astronomy. There's the Earth's orbit around the sun, and then the moon's orbit around the Earth. And they're kind of at a little bit of an angle, a 5-degree angle. And so Ketu is the north node, and Rahu is the south node. So the north node moves from north to south, moving in opposite directions as the rest of the planets. And the south node moves from south to north, the ascending transit. So they're mathematical points, and it's where the two orbits meet. So these are the Chayagrahas, the shadow planets. These are the trauma nodes and the dynamic of attraction and repulsion. Rahu and Ketu are always 180 degrees apart from each other, and there can't be one without the other. They're two halves of the same being. The head without the body is the smoky shadow planet. He's always searching, never satiated, and he's our unfulfilled desires. The head is the trauma point, and he's seeking spiritual evolution, enlightenment, and liberation from our karmic debts. It represents this struggle of lightness and darkness. There's a karmic axis between our past lives, which is K2, bringing in our past lives, and then the psychological impact that it brings into our present life. So these are the shadows within, and they're powerful catalysts for spiritual growth and evolution. And they can lead to higher consciousness and the redirection of our desires. So these are the polarities with a mission to churn up our lives in order to bring out the hidden potential of wisdom that are gathered from our past karmas. And there's an ancestral piece too, the karmas that are handed down to us from our ancestors that were not resolved. They represent our personal eclipse lesson struggles that we work with throughout our lifetime. This is where we have our restrictions and where we find liberation. The trauma nodes are activated by the properties of the houses that they're in and the constellations, both the Rashis, which are the 12 sun constellations, and then the nakshatras, which are the 27 moon constellations. And then transits and dashas, or time periods, can trigger specific events and challenges that are related to the houses that they're in or the area that they sit in our personal charts. By embracing the teachings of Rahu and Ketu, One can navigate difficult times with wisdom and awareness to move us into growth. It's like this push and pull of I want it, but I'm terrified by it. And I love this quote by Anais Nin, and I've never heard the first part of the quote before. It takes courage to push yourself to places you have never been before, to break through barriers. And the day came when the risk it took to stay tight inside the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So I see this as this Rahu Ketu dynamic where it's like Rahu is moving towards wisdom and towards our Dharma, and Ketu has come in with the lessons and the traumas that we have to work through in order to get to our Dharma. I like this image of Rahu because he's blue. He has his weapons. He has the Trishula like Shiva. He's got the tail of the snake, or sometimes it's depicted as a dragon. And then he's riding on the lion. So Rahu is all about material goals. Like in the story, disguise and poison and foreigners. He had to disguise himself to get in with the Asuras. And, there's the story of the poison. And Rahu Ketu is the foreigner on the earth and heaven plane. Has to do with deception and confusion. This is where the point in our chart where we're constantly confused or hazy or smoky about what's going on here. Rahu is about foreign environments, unfulfilled desires, obsessions, attachments, and he wants to experience pleasure. So he likes the worldly pleasures, and Rahu is very ambitious and never satisfied. He's moving at breakneck speed, moving towards with terror what it is that we're here to achieve. And it's like, put on the brakes, but you can't put on the brakes. You're already like on the path in that direction, and there's no stopping. He's a powerful catalyst for spiritual growth, consciousness, and liberation. And then he's that smoky blue appearance, lives in the forests, and he's very shadowy, and he's the solar eclipse. Okay, K2 is the south node. So K2 has the head of the dragon or the snake, and then the body of the human. And he's here to reorganize and enlighten. So K2, the south node, is all about spiritual attainment, transcendence, spiritual purpose. He's highly adaptable and intuitive and spiritual. And he's the lessons that we've already learned in our past lives that we're bringing into this life. He wants the spiritual attainment. He's not so concerned about all of the material pleasures or enjoying those pleasures. K2's chaotic. He's ungrounded, unfinished. He's the part that doesn't care. He's like, oh, whatever. I've already been here before. I've already been through it. I already know like the traumas and the ancestral stuff that I came in with. Rahu is the one that's like trying to figure that out. So K2 is about past life experiences and liberation, detaching from the material world. And he's our trauma point, trauma, loss, and the fear of visibility. K2 wears multicolored or striped clothes. He's got the smoky body. He's all about the creepy crawlers, the snakes, and the insects on the land. And he is the lunar eclipse. Another quote I ran across, rebellion is when you look society in the face and say, I understand who you want me to be, but I'm going to show you who I actually am. So this is a very Rahu K2. I would say more K2 than Rahu, because K2 is like, this is who I am, and I'm here to attain spirituality. And Rahu is a little bit more confused about who he is, but Rahu's like, this is it. This is who I am. Take me or leave me. All right, the sixth house, Dharma Bhava. So the Bhava is the house, and Dharma is our divine purpose, the ninth house of divine purpose. So I have the lower right-hand corner highlighted here. And then the upper left is just kind of outlined. So Rahu in the ninth. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to talk about the ninth first, then we'll bring Rahu into the ninth. So the ninth house is all about guru, fortune, devotion. It's also the father. Some say nine, some say 10. Or it could be both. But we've got the pursuit of higher learning. So this can be the spiritual higher learning, or it can also be like academic higher learning, like masters and doctorates. This is where the pursuit of wisdom is. And it's also foreign travel and pilgrimages. So it's foreign to other countries far away, but you're going to be returning. And then pilgrimages where you're there in order to have like a spiritual purpose, pujas and temple visits and things like that. And then it's the area of the thighs and hips. And we know that we hold a lot of tension and traumas in our hips. Okay. Right. So the first, fifth, and ninth houses are the Dharma houses, and each one is like more elevated. So the ninth house is the highest Dharma house. That's where our luck and fortune and right action is. The Dharma is the highest reflection of our spiritual path. It relates also to satsang, so a group of people that have the same guru or teacher is a very important part of the ninth house, and an important part for learning, initiation, connection with devas. And then Jupiter is the ruler of the ninth house. Jupiter is the guru, and Sagittarius is the natural constellation. Sagittarius has to do with, it's a fire sign. It has to do with truth telling and adventure. So this is a house of higher knowledge, wisdom, philosophy, and ethics. Oh, no. Okay, there we go. Rahu in the ninth house. So Rahu in the ninth house has to do with rebelliousness. So I've been told throughout my life, most of my life, that I'm a rebel and anti-authoritarian. There's sometimes deception with the guru or an unusual guru. So a lot of the people I've studied with, gurus and teachers, either are teachers that are studying foreign knowledge, which is unusual, or teachers from other countries coming here to bring their knowledge of, ancient Vedic texts to Westerners. There can be trouble with travels in the ninth house. I haven't experienced any trouble with travel, but I love traveling, and especially to foreign countries. And then let's see, unethical trickster, that can be a quality of Rahu in the ninth house. Successful, triumphant, unusual luck. So maybe like quick luck, blessings that come kind of out of nowhere, or money that might come all of a sudden that you weren't expecting. And not afraid of the unknown and mysterious. So enjoying like the mysterious qualities, like studying the Vedas, I think is like mysterious knowledge that there's just no end to the teachings. K2 in the third house, there can be a lack of consistency and effort, or I would say on the flip side, maybe too much effort, working too hard. This is a place where there can be outbursts, difficult with communication, relationships, especially siblings and neighbors. I've had some crazy neighbors. Um, and then erratic thinking, inventive. They've got like a quick mind. Rahu and Ketu also have to do with like computers, innovative thinking, technology, things like that. There can be sudden surprises or sudden changes. And third house can be a place of Rahu in the third can be a place of mystical adventures, with Rahu bringing that mystical and adventurous part in. And then it's the house of courage as well. So, and creativity. So there's like creative, courageous. It's also the house of the arts, more the arts move like using the hands. So playing instruments or dancing, things like that. Expression, writing, of course. Cutting hair. I also cut hair. So Marana is where the planet is suffering and feels like it's dying. So each of the planets have a Marahu placement, very dramatic. Um, and so Rahu's is in the ninth house, Saturn's is in the first house, because Saturn doesn't want the light shining on them. They don't want that, exposed to the light. So ninth house is a very difficult place for Maranu because he's the planet of deceit and he's in the ninth house of upholding Dharma. So he's got to be on his best behavior. A more natural placement or an easier placement would be Rahu in the third and Ketu in the ninth, because Ketu in the ninth, he wants to experience that spiritual enlightenment, and Rahu in the third, he wants to experience the worldly pleasures. The demon will have to chant the name of God. So Rahu is pulling you into the ninth house as a pathway to obtaining your soul purpose. You can chant Durga though, because Durga is the goddess of Rahu. And so that would actually appease Rahu. So that type of chanting the name of goddess would be actually an excellent remedy. And then the demon has to bow to the feet of the guru. So I see this Marana Rahu in the ninth house as like the tower card in the tarot. And I love this particular card because you have the Trishula of Shiva up there in the upper right corner. And then you have the lightning striking the tower. And then around the bottom, there's a snake wrapped around it. So you have that Rahu Ketu imagery with the lightning and the snake, and then the powers of Shiva. And it's the material and the spiritual worlds colliding. There's this one guy that says the tower doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And it's like you have to completely break down and be completely torn apart in order to get to your dharma and to the place of spiritual attainment. So it's also that like dark night of the soul moment. And this Spirit Keepers Tarot deck says that this is the card when you are changing your direction. It's the moment that your material Rahu and your spiritual Ketu collide. It's the ascending from the ego. And no matter the fall, you're always going to get back up and thrive. There can be joy and sorrow and stability and change. And I think that is a really good one to remember. Having this like Marana Rahu in the ninth house placement is very much like the tower card for me. I'm also in a Rahu Mahadasha and a Rahu Ketu return. So it's in the placement in my chart, but I'm also going through it presently right now. So definitely this like tower moment of trauma. And when I was going through actually right before I was going through my divorce, I was at a yoga retreat and I received the Durga chant. And first I didn't know I was going to be receiving it. And then second of all, it was at like the perfect timing because it was right before the divorce started. And so Durga, and I didn't know about the Durga Rahu connection at the time either, but it's something that I have kept with me in my own practice. But it's been very helpful. So, all right, I pulled up the chart from this morning showing Rahu in the ninth house in Revati and Ketu in the third house in Virgo. So because the ascendant changes so quickly, it's moved from here, but I wanted to capture it when Rahu was in the ninth house and Ketu in the third so that I could talk about the current transit. So currently Rahu is in Revati, in Pisces in Revati. And Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. So it's a Jupiter house, and then the Jupiter is in that house, Lord of that house. It has to do with highly spiritual, the end of a cycle, and then the upcoming new beginning. So Pisces is the end of the constellations, and Revati is the last nakshatra in Pisces. So it's like the end of the end. And this is where Rahu is currently sitting right now. So it has to do with understanding our soul purpose. And it's a great time for harnessing a spiritual practice. Revati is about spiritual wealth. Rahu is presently in a state of spiritual turmoil and finds the transformation fascinating. It's a time of turbulence and deep mystery and wisdom, making us confused. Rahu gets confused by all of this. So it's a time to work on our trauma work and shadow work. And knowing that seeking happiness outside is not the answer, it lies within. Losing the fear of failure and trusting your intuition is the time right now. Pushan is the deity of Revati, and he's one of the 12 forms of the sun, one of the sons of Aditya. Pushan guides the living and the dead to the right destinations. And then it's ruled by Mercury. Mercury is the son of the moon. So you have the moon and Mercury dynamic here, and then Jupiter as well, because Jupiter rules Pisces. So Jupiter and Mercury are not really friends because Jupiter wants that higher attainment and Mercury is about the material world. And then we have Ketu and Virgo in Hasta Nakshatra. So again, this is currently where they are right now in the chart, depending on which house they're in for you. Ketu can get frustrated with restriction. And if Ketu can't find the words to speak, intuition and chanting is very helpful. Yeah. Virgo is called Kanya, and it's ruled by Mercury, which is a material sign. That's why Jupiter doesn't get along so well. Ketu is uncomfortable in Virgo's practical restraints. Hasta means hand. It's the healer and the handyman. And I've seen so many charts where people have Hasta and they're chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, Reiki masters, like some sort of hands-on healing. And or also like very handy with their hands. Gardeners also digging in the dirt. Savitur is the ruler of Hasta. Savitur is one of the Surya, the sun gods, and one of the 12 sons of Aditi. The Gayatri mantra is really excellent for this Rahu and Ketu right now because Savitur is invoked in the chant of the Gayatri mantra, Om Tat Savitur Varenyam. So you're calling on Savitur for that knowledge and wisdom and that influence of the mind, mantra, meditation. The moon rules Hasta, which is interesting because Savitur is a sun god that rules Hasta, but it's but moon is the planet that rules Hasta. And the moon has to do with emotions, changeable viewpoints, changeable moods, different perspectives, waxing and waning, and vulnerability. So a few remedies here for Rahu. Rahu acts like Saturn. So Saturday is Saturn's day. So you can do things on Saturdays that will help this Rahu placement, such as donating food and clothes on Saturdays, feeding crows or feeding black dogs, wearing clothing that represents the planet, so black, gray, green, or blue, fasting on Saturdays, or doing making khichdi, having khichdi, which is very healing, warming, and comforting food made out of rice and dal. Durga rules Rahu, so you can chant to Durga, and that's going to help those negative effects of Rahu, whether it be the Rahu Mahadasha, Rahu in Marana. There's an Antardasha, which is a shorter time period within that long 18-year Rahu Mahadasha. So even during the Antardashas, you can also chant to Rahu. Marana Rahu, Rahu AK, so that's the Atmakataka. That's where, that's the sole purpose of this incarnation, or the difficult Rahu return. So I'd like to close up with the Durga Bija Mantra and the Rahu Bija Mantra to give you some tools to work with Durga. Okay, so if you'd like, you can open or close your eyes, and you can either chant along silently or muted. And I'm going to do each one 3 times, and then that way it'll be on the recording that you can refer back to. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Ram Rahuve Namaha. Om Ram Rahuve Namaha. Om Ram Rahuve Namaha. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I learned some things myself here today, Erin. Thank you so
You
much
did?
for sharing about Rahu Marana. I know we share this combination. We've had many interesting conversations. I hope we can continue to explore this. And hopefully this was helpful for others, whether you have Marana Rahu or not. This is really important reminders the for Rahu, for Ketu. So you've covered a lot. And if you want to work with Erin or keep going, Erin has wonderful 3-session package, and we will share that in our follow-up email today. So every day there'll be a Meet Your Teachers email coming out at the end of the day with special promotions and offerings. So Erin has an offering that she'll be sharing with you if you'd like to work with her. And those details will be in our closing email today. Is there anything you want to add, Erin, before we close?
No, just thank you everybody for your attention and interest.
Hope this was helpful for all of you. We'll see you back here shortly for another session today. And I hope this whole Jyotish Summit is helpful for you as you continue to navigate your Dharma and awaken your own inner light. So we'll see you soon. Bye.